guys, welcome to Irish Footy Vlogs. Delighted to welcome Keith Ryan back to the show, and he's a Bray man. We're doing a season preview for Bray Wanderers in 2021, our first division preview. We're starting off on Friday. Looking forward to that personally. You looking forward to the season, Keith?
Yeah, very much so. Although our game's Sunday now, so
last.
With Brian Maher being called up to 21s, they had to change. Or well, I was of the understanding was 2 players had to be called up for international, but it's actually the one. So yeah, again Sunday at 3:00 now. So.
Yeah, funnily enough, actually we spoke about this I think a week ago or something like that, and I was kind of saying to you, like, surely would they not play Clark, let's say, in goal or something, because Clark is a good goalkeeper, and if you're missing a player through injury, you don't postpone the game. It is only one player, but it's just a bit of a strange dynamic, isn't it? I don't know. It's a strange one.
Maybe because it's the first match of the season. If it was mid-season, would it have as much effect as it would with the first match? I don't know, but he would be a big loss. Like Brian Maher, like you've seen his performances last season, so it's no surprise that they've asked to change the game. So just give us that extra 2 days to wait for kickoff.
I suppose that's it. It's only an extra 2 days. I think if it was the next week or it was postponed, you'd be a bit annoyed, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. So Bray obviously had a good season 2020. Bittersweet, bittersweet, really, wasn't it? But there was a lot of things you could take from that season to bring into this season, basically. Do you expect a proper title push this year, even though a lot of other teams have strengthened as well, you could argue, couldn't you?
Well, you hit the nail on the head there. A lot of teams have strengthened. And we like, when I saw the players that left us, Killian Cantwell, Callum Thompson, Sean McAvoy won't be back, I believe, until after his leaving cert, maybe. But then we started drafting players in, the likes of Mark Byrne. Biggest coup was obviously Brandon Kavanagh. For me last season, and I know there was a bit of controversy that he was part of the team of the year nominations, but he'll get goals, he'll get assists, so he's a massive coup. I'm surprised Sean McCrory's let him go, to be honest with you. I thought he'd be part of their first team plans, but we're just delighted to have him on board.
To be honest with you, I honestly think he's too good for the first division. I really do think he's too, but that's only good for Bray, isn't it? That
Absolutely
serious quality in the first division. He's an outstanding player. Have you seen him in pre-season? I know he's done well in pre-season, hasn't he?
I haven't seen any pre-season games. Obviously, with the COVID restrictions and stuff like that, there's not many people that can actually attend games. But from reports, I've heard really good things. So, please God, he doesn't carry any injuries this season, and he gets through the whatever it is, 36 games, and he gives us his best.
A few other players came in, the likes of Sean Callan and Stephen Kinsella, so they're kind of under the radar. Maybe Conor Clifford, if he can reboot his career as well.
Yeah.
He's been playing in pre-season, I know, as well. But you mentioned Mark Byrne there, interestingly, and you mentioned to me there, actually, that he was playing right back in all the pre-season games, seemingly. That's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, Mark, it's actually funny. All of our player sponsorship details came out this week, and he was one of the player profiles that came out. And he actually states that he'd be a right back / box-to-box midfielder. So, look, if he's played over 300 games in the UK, he has that experience. And losing JR back to Shelbourne, again, that's a big loss. But if Mark can fill that void and do what JR did last season, getting up and down that line, it was a no-brainer signing, really. We lost obviously Paul Keegan with the experience as well, and Mark is bringing a lot of that back in, so he knows the game. He's been in and around different clubs, so please God.
You lost Killian Cantwell as well. He's a loss as well, but do you expect Callan to play centre back alongside Barry? Obviously, it's a long season, so we will see changes here and there, but do you think that's going to be the combination from day one, or?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember our teams that lined out pre-season. I know Dylan Barnett can play centre half.
Yeah.
So but the thing with Dylan and Aaron, they're both left-sided players. So the balance there. Sean Callan, obviously also Andrew Quinn coming in from Dundalk. So there's a lot of support at the back first. So I suppose it depends. It depends how they play pre-season. Um, I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about Sean Cullen. I know I spoke to you before, and he had quite good appearances for Shamrock Rovers last season. So we'll see how it goes. But first few games are obviously going to be crucial, and you'll kind of see the different players kind of gelling together. Connor Clifford in the midfield. Hopefully he can get back to his best. He was at Chelsea as a youth player. Like, he can only be good. So.
Captain as well, yeah.
And he was part of Tony's squads early on as well in his reign as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. Who do you think is the biggest loss out of the players that have left as such, or maybe include Sean McAvoy in that list as well, because it looks like he won't be returning for at least half the season anyway, I think.
Look, you'll know our back four last season was quite good, quite solid. So you had obviously Brian Mann, JR, and then you had Aaron Barry, Killian Cantwell, and Dylan on the left side. Killian, when I first heard he was going, it really surprised me. I don't know what Athlone are offering or whatever. He seems to have signed half the league, but he's a massive, massive loss. So I'm only hoping that someone can come in and do even half of the job he did last season for us, because, as you say, Sean McAvoy, massive loss as well. He was kind of like a box-to-box midfielder, chipped in with a few goals. So, yeah, but Connor Clifford coming in. It's funny, I'm trying to compare.
A bit, yeah.
I'm trying to compare the players we lost with the players we brought in, and I don't know. We seem strong. The 11 that we'll put out seems strong. We can't carry any injuries. That's the problem. If we carry an injury or two, the squad is not massive, so it might be a little bit of a problem. And that was the same last season. We seen towards the end of last season, the Galway game, particularly the playoff, we were carrying a few injuries, and it just came to bite us back in the hole. So, but sure.
True, but Gary Shaw obviously as well is your top marksman, but he kind of got a few injuries, didn't he, late last season as well. That's a little bit of a concern, isn't it? Obviously with a long season and that. Now you do have the young guy, his name is gone from me there.
Darragh Lynch.
Darragh Lynch, yeah. Like he's a monster. I've seen him in the flesh as well. Like he's 18 just about, isn't he? He was 17, I think. Is he still?
I think he was 16 when 17. So I think he turns 18 this year. I'm not sure.
Yeah. He's a giant of a man as well, so he could be important this season as well, couldn't he, in fairness?
Yeah, everyone knows Gary Shaw's talents, and it's great to have him on board, and he'll get goals. But as you said, the only problem is he's a bit injury prone. There were some games last season that I remember the UCD game I was actually watching on the stream, and he came off injured. Now we won that game, thankfully, but you need your top players playing at least 75, 80 minutes of every game. Like Gary's only 28.
Yeah.
So
he's around a while, isn't it?
He's still young in terms, like he's probably peaking now, and so if you can hang on to him if he can get us 70 to 80 minutes of every game this season, it'd be a bonus. As I said, what concerns me is the squad, and this has been the case the last couple of years. We haven't had the squad to actually, like, if you look at Drogheda last season, they had quite a big squad and eventually went on to win the league. Shelbourne this year, massive squad. Galway have signed well, massive squad. Cork City, I don't know about Cork City now. Like, a lot of people seem to be saying, oh, Cork City, but is it more the name that they're thinking of rather than the signings they've gone in? I don't know.
I know they've a lot of good youth players at Cork City as well. A lot of them struggled a little bit in the Premier, so the first might give them, something to kick. They might be able to perform in the first, basically, because they did struggle in the Premier. But I see what you're saying about the name and that as well. Mentioned there about players that left, actually, Bray, and players that came in. Like, I'm looking at the list there, and a lot of the players that came in my opinion, are as good individually. The issue is, though, are they going to settle in as well as the players that were there that have left? Like, you touched on McAvoy there and Clifford. Like, you might say Clifford technically is as good as McAvoy, but McAvoy worked in the Bray team.
Yeah.
We don't know if Clifford will work in the Bray team. Callan, we don't know if he'll work in the Bray team. Richard Farlane from Drogheda, he was in and out of the team, but he's a young man still. He's only 22, so he could come in and do well. So that's the difficulty when you're bringing in, I think, new players, isn't it? Even if they're good players, you don't know how they're going to fit into the team. But the thing is, Gary Crone's there 3 years now. Is that right? This is third season.
He came in
halfway through.
This will be his third full season, but he came in halfway during the 2018 season. Obviously, we were relegated then, but you're right though.
Yeah.
There was a togetherness in the squad last year, and you seen players, and obviously COVID last year, but they would have socialised together and stuff like that. So
that's the point too. Yeah.
They did gel quite well together, and you seen even with the celebrations of goals. I know this might be a small factor in it, but all the players were up celebrating, bar the goalkeeper. So will Clifford bring that? Will Sean Callan bring that? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting league, Keith. A lot of people will fancy Shelbourne, obviously with who they brought in.
It's just with Shelbourne, I think it's very hard to look past them, isn't it? Because of they brought in serious quality Premier Division players and that. The question is, will they be managed correctly though? That's one point as well. In a long season, then you have to say surely that quality shows through. Like Michael O'Connor and Maddie. I know Maddie was in the first last year, but let's be honest, they're both Premier Division forwards, aren't they? In reality, they brought in a serious amount of players. But Bray still, the fact that Cronin is there a couple of years now, how would you rate him over the couple of years? As in, do you think they've got better each year under him, or how would you rate it overall?
Well, obviously the first season we finished outside the playoffs in his first full season. And to be honest, I thought the players we had then, like we had Dylan McGlade, the most frustrating footballer in the world. He could put the ball on a sixpence, or he could give the ball away. He could carry the ball 60 yards, then lose it, try and take on 3 or 4 players. Last season, we it's just frustrating. You were at the draw the game. I said to you before that. I said to you before that game that I fancied us that night. They won the match. The small number of supporters they had were celebrating the title then. And then Bray. Then we came back into it. And look, the Galway game that we lost in the league, the penultimate game, was so close, it was so tight. Jack Watson had a chance in the 90th minute, I think it was. And if that goes in, that's another one that's gone, yeah. But if that goes in, we're going to Athlone, top of the league, and potentially win the title. We obviously would have won the title if the result had went our way.
And that's the thing, it was so tight. I was talking to some Drogheda guys the other day, and I said, I bet you're delighted you went up this season. Obviously, you're delighted you went up, but particularly this season, because like Bray could have been in the Premier Division, and now it looks like a scramble. Like, I do think they'll be up there, but it's going to be, I think it'll be more difficult than last season, to be honest. Would you agree with that now overall?
Yeah, 100%. The first season, Gary had, obviously Shelbourne were in the league that year as well. So they went up as champions that year. It was quite difficult. Last season we had the UCDs, and like Shamrock Rovers caused a few problems as well, But just going back to your previous question, I think we have progressed under Gary. With the 5th place finish the first season, 2nd place finish last season. Let's hope this season it's either the league title or promotion. Look, I'm 100% sure Gary is happy to just go under the radar. He's happy for people to be talking about the Corks, the Shelbournes, the Galways, and just get on with what they have to get on with. We play Shelbourne in Talcott in the 2nd game, but I have to set a marker down there, 100%.
Could be a good time to play them, actually, to be fair, because I don't care what anyone says, they're still throwing a lot of new players together here, and I know Bray have lost some players, every club does, but I still feel like there may be early doors to be more of a unit. We've seen it actually in the Premier Division a little bit, with Drogheda beating Waterford, and a few Longford beating Derry, another one as well, and even Finn Harps beating Bows. Finn Harps one new signing that started. So I think there is something behind that, especially early doors. There has to be something behind that because there's a cohesion in the way you're trying to play. And like, I couldn't sit here and pick Shelbourne's best 11 for you now. I'd come close to Bray's best 11, like, I think, but I couldn't do that with Shelbourne. So that could be something that goes against them early on in the season. And depending how they start, you know, if they have a really bad start, you never know. It could be difficult to actually to gain momentum then.
Yeah, 2018 season they played Galway and everyone expected them to steamroll the league. They went up there and I think they only won it in the last minute. Could have been a 3-2, I'm not sure. But I kind of disagree. A lot of teams in the league are going through, and it's the same every season with the league where you know, like, you could have a player playing for 6-7 different teams in 7 years. Like, it's one of those. It's just a way. But Gary has gone with our first 11 in the last 2 friendly games. You know, our pre-season has been pretty solid. Like, first game was a 3-3 draw against Sherman Rovers. We bet draw at 4-1.
That was a good one. Yeah.
That's a massive result. And people say, oh, it's only a friendly, but at the end of the day, they had quite a strong team out. So, and then they go and beat, who they beat the other night?
Waterford in the league.
Waterford, yeah. Well, Waterford. I think Waterford will be in the playoffs, to be honest. But, I can't see anyone running away with the league. People are going to take points off each other, and that's the way it's going to be. And Galway, you see, it's hard. You might notice in the UK, Keith, like the away teams are winning a lot of games, and is that because there's no supporters there? Like, you're going down to Cork, for instance. I know in the first division they won't get anywhere near their 6,000-7,000 people, but like, if you went down there, the passion that their supporters show on a match night, like, without fans, every team has every chance, you know. So I don't know. It's hard to call.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if home and away make a difference either myself. I know players know the pitch, but you've just said, as you say there, players on the pitch, but most clubs have new players, so they don't really know that. Like Shelbourne as an example, because they've probably, you know, signed the most players compared to every other club, including Galway, actually. But, you know, none of them are used to Talca Park. I'm sure they've played in Talca Park, but it's not the Bray players, you know what I mean? But as a unit, as a team, a lot of them would never have played in front of Shelbourne fans, like, for example. But it's the same for all the clubs. But as you say, I think that does come into it a little bit because players definitely feel it. And even people might joke and say the League of Ireland, you only get a few hundred or whatever. You still feel it, though. You still feel it. I was there in Bray for the Bray Drogheda match, and Chris Lyons knew what was being said. I can tell you that.
I didn't say anything.
But you know what I mean, though, Hugh Douglas or whoever, you know, it adds to it, though, as well. And, you know, most players can take that in the chin and, you know, they know it's part of it and it's a joke and all that. And I've seen, like, with Pats there, a few of their new signings have been saying that, you know, it's so tight, Richmond Park, when you come as an away player, you know what they're saying and this kind of thing. But we're not getting that, unfortunately, at the moment. So I do think it's a factor, because it's not a factor, if you get me.
Yeah, but you're right. We played Longford. We won the game 3-0, and it was in the round COVID restrictions being lifted, and a couple of fans were allowed back in the ground, and there was that little bit of atmosphere, that little bit of a G up for the players, you know. And we went 1 or 2 up, and you could just see it lifting the players that little bit. So please God, we see fans back in the ground sooner rather than later. I know the COVID restrictions this year are a lot more stricter than they were last year. So, but I'd be happy to be challenging for the title. If we get a playoff spot, you take your chances in the playoff, and with a little bit of luck with injuries, you never know, you know.
If you had to call it, what position are you saying? First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th?
obviously, I'm going to one supposed to finish top of the league, you know. But anyone between, I personally think it's between ourselves, Galway and Shelbourne. Cork are coming down. Like, what will they offer? You know, they've hung on to a few tidy players. They brought Stephen Beattie back in, so
Obviously, you said there with McGlade. McGlade could go on and be Player of the Year for Cork, or he,
I agree.
Like
I agree.
And
Corey Galvin, I think they hung on to Corey Galvin as well, did they?
Yeah.
So, like, they're two tidy players. Garroy Morrissey, they hung on to as well.
He's still there. Garroy Morrissey's still there. So they've got Alec Byrne, who's a good young player there as well. They do have tidy players, as you say. They do. The question is, for me, is up front. I'm not sure they have a striker. Bray have a striker. You know what I mean? Who else we got? Shelburne have a striker too. Galway as well. I'd keep an eye on France Lee Lamboto. He came in last season. He looks good to me. But they also have Mikey Rowe, and there's a few options there. That's where Cork might fall down. Exactly. That's where Cork might fall down, actually, to be honest with you.
Well, I actually back Yo-Yo to be top goal scorer in the first division.
Pressure will be on him now a little bit too because of what he did last season, isn't it?
What's the story with Kilduff? Like, is he going back to Shelbourne? Is he not? I don't know.
No, I don't think he is, to be honest. But he seems to be unattached at the moment. So,
like Michael O'Connor's been all over the place. So, like, he has a bit of a spark about him. Like, he was sent off against us for Shamrock Rovers one year for just kicking out at a player. Like, so you won't know what you'll get with him. Will his record speak for itself? Will he be missing for a few games here and there? You know. So that's quite important as well, Keith. Like, you know, you need to be keeping your bookings down and your discipline. You need to be keeping your discipline, because if you're missing key players for key games, you know, that one player or two players could make the difference, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Look, Keith, thanks for coming on. Always a pleasure. We'll see you again. Thanks you.
Take care. Have a good day.